Hello, hello, hello. I am here at the other house in the garage with my artwork, and it is nice outside, and we're going to the beach. And before we leave, I want to capture my train of thought because I think it's important that I make a video of this because what I see on the internet is is very disappointing, and it's hard to describe this. It's very detrimental what people are doing, the kind of message they're bringing out on the internet. There are coaches, I can't mention names for legal reasons because I have to protect myself, of course, because people, they sue people if anyone says anything, even if it's true. They'll say it's not, and they'll sue someone for slandering them. So, but I let people, you know, on the internet make up their own, come to their own conclusions about these different coaches and so-called self-proclaimed spiritual leaders. So that word spiritual is so incredibly that is so incredibly wrong, that word, that needs to be put into the recycling bin. So I saw a so-called spiritual coach, and she makes these sessions with people, and it's an older lady, and she makes people repeat after her. Not just random things, but she makes them repeat after her certain statements that sounds almost like what they do in the evangelical church, where they make people repeat after them some kind of Bible verses, which is totally unethical. Okay, and this person also makes people repeat, and I can't get into the nitty-gritty of it because then it will be evident who it is. So, but I let people come to their own conclusions about this. I wished we could all openly talk about these things and say who it is and criticize each other openly. That would be very nice, but our legal system doesn't permit this. That's why I'm waiting for the AGI development, because once we have AGI robots in the government, once they're running things, they'll take all of this bullshit out of people's hands, and no one can sue anyone anymore for slander or whatever, you know. And we can finally say what we have to say, and we can point it out, and we can say this person is putting out a dangerous message. Pay attention. So, but we can't. Our hands are tied. So what I'm waiting for the AGIs in 2029, they're going to be here, and they're going to proliferate themselves, and they're going to turn this whole thing around. They're going to take the governments into their own hands. But until then, it's just 10 more years, okay? But until then, we have to do whatever we can. Sign petitions, we have to get into politics, we have to get into law school, we have to make the best out of the situation that we can with the means that we have, okay? With any kind of means, legal means, or financial means, or voice means, activism means, and so on. We have to do the best we can with this, and I use the means of making videos and also write blogs, articles, and books. And I comment and I participate in conversations and I try to educate people and get them onto the right path. I hope so. I hope that I can achieve this. I don't know if I can, if people even listen. So, but at least I can try. That's the least I can do. I can give it a try. That's better than not trying at all. So, I observe a lot of things on the internet. I see incredible amount of bullshit, and not just bullshit, but I see dangerous messages being thrown around on the internet. And teenagers, young people, they haven't come around. They don't know that much about the world. They don't know about all the pitfalls and the dangers. They don't know about the rotten character functionalities in some people. They don't know that some people are so twisted and so disconnected and so in the groove of their own act outs. They don't see it because they haven't put their minds into this yet. Okay, so they're the first ones to be captured by manipulating people, by people who are very good at selling people something, selling people products, ideas, or even certain therapy approaches or certain introspection techniques that they created, but and they may have started out with an honest approach. They may have started out. I have to be very careful how I word myself. I do not want to be sued. So, but they start out. They might start out where they themselves had to introspect because their act outs weren't working anymore. So then they were thrown onto themselves. And then maybe it was tabula rasa first, blank slate. Maybe they were back on ground zero. They started to introspect and then they saw, yeah, that works. But when how do I explain this? When the person doesn't pay attention to this, they can very quickly loop themselves back into the ego act out mechanism. But this time they'll use this so-called self-proclaimed introspection technique for it. And they use the introspection technique as a cover-up and act-out tool. So they loop themselves back into it. I don't know. How do I explain this to make this understood? I have to be very careful how I word myself because I don't want to be sued for slander. So, because all these people, they have their own personal introspection techniques that they figured out, and certain type of role play and therapies and different type of things that are supposed to go make the person go within themselves and introspect and see and have an insight into their own act outs and into their own self-trapped thinking, But some of these people, become trapped again in themselves and they don't even notice it. And then they are so disconnected. Also, neurotic society helps to keep them disconnected, with all the fears that these people have and whatever fears that they have personally, and they want to always stay in charge of everything. And so then the ego loops them back into their own, and even uses their own introspection techniques to act out instead of introspect. So this is what's happening. It's very dangerous. And then they will make this public, and they will, in this process of acting out, they will not just not help people in their workshops, but they'll actually hurt people psychologically in this process. And they will hurt every other young person or teenager who watches this and gets also looped and caught into this twisted, warped, neurotic act out with that just has a cover title of introspection technique. I don't know if this makes any sense. So how do I explain this? How do I give the best possible example now for this without making it too evident who that person is? So that's an older person. That's all I'm willing to say for now. It's an older person who gets caught into their own act out loops over and over and over and over again and not noticing it at all. They get caught in self-inflation, they get caught in greed, they get caught in fear, fear of death, fear of future, fear of this and this and this and all of this. And the ego loops things always by uses what was initially first working as an introspection and helping for a little while, but then the ego figures out a way. The ego is very tricky and very smart with this, and it loops the person back into an act out and into a frenzy of act outs, and then even selling that even as a working introspection technique to other people whose egos will also use it for that, instead of where the egos are laid to rest, where the person says, I see what I'm doing here. Ego can lay itself to rest now, okay, take a nap, so, but no, it's the ego that uses this then, instead of the rational inner mind, the rational thinking mind, the inner child, the creative person, the actual person that is the actual soul, the actual person that is interconnected and attuned and connected to all life around them. But it's the ego that always sees a danger everywhere, and it will be very quick to hijack certain modalities for its own advantage. So that's what's going on all the time on the internet. It's very risky business, particularly when other people see this and they get lured and they get tricked into it. So, and also making money with it on cost of other people and on cost of animals, on cost of the planet. So it's very bad. With their act outs, they cater to all kinds of commerce, they cater to corporations, they cater to industries. Like in this one case where it became very evident to me what this person is doing, because it had to do with the meat industry. And I left 4 long comments underneath, as I usually do. In this case, I was very, 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 very disappointed, and I was very upset. I was very angry also, but I was very upset And my comments were not angry. I tried to word myself in the most understandable way I possibly could in order to make people see and understand what's going on here with this particular. I was very delighted and glad to see that I was not the only one who left comments underneath that video. There were many other people. There were maybe 40 other people besides me who commented underneath and who said this video is off, there's something not right about it, and this subject cannot be used for this particular method. I can clearly see this is being twisted by the ego to support an industry and support its greed and ego and all of this, and going against the other life forms on this planet with this particular self-loop reasoning, okay, which is supposed to be an introspection technique, but it's not. So the ego completely twisted it all the way upside down and inside out. And that's very tricky and very risky when this happens. Okay, we need to pay attention. The coach, I don't even want to say the gender. Okay, the coach, the coach needs to realize this. Okay, and the audience needs to realize this, and all of those clients need to realize this. The coach made someone repeat a very detrimental and cruel statement after saying that statement. Made that person repeat it. This is a technique used in the evangelical church, which is very unethical, and this person probably copied this somehow, this technique of, like forcing someone to repeat something after them. So very, very wrong. That it by itself is already very wrong. Even if I have a good thing to say, and even if it's a neutral statement like I like ice cream or I like the color pink, and I make someone say, now I need you to say this, I like the color pink, and then they will say, I like the color pink. Like, yes, I am doing whatever slaveholder says, this is unethical right there. But not only that, these religious or coach or whatever self-proclaimed spiritual leaders, they sometimes make people repeat things that are very detrimental for people, and then it becomes extra unethical. Then it can become very dangerous, actually. And then when that statement even caters to an industry that exploits animals, then we're having a real massive problem, like a red flag alert. Okay, and I want people to pay attention to those things. Okay, pay very close attention. That's all I can do here as an activist. I make videos about this. I bring this out as good as I can so that people will pay attention to it and question those people. Question them very thoroughly. Okay? Don't latch onto them hook, line, and sinker. View them critically. Pay very close attention when you're dealing with self-proclaimed spiritual leaders. Okay? This is very important. So that person has this technique, this so-called introspection technique of when someone says something to turn that statement around and ask themselves, am I doing this? Or, which is good, there's nothing wrong with this. But then that person goes on to twist this out of proportion and bring other questions into it, and particularly bring questions into it where the person's supposed to question himself or herself when the person is coming with 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 an intention or with a subject of concern. Like, there was a woman who was concerned about the meat industry, and the coach twisted this whole thing around and then made her question herself and thinking of herself as being cruel. So that's where the problem, that's a real huge problem. It's a huge problem. And the person that was the client, so-called client, it seemed to me like that was an actress, or I don't know how they call it, female actor. Okay, so young female actor who was probably paid a lot of money to play along with this pseudo coach session that was sold to the public as a real client that came there to get the consultation. And now that's even now we're having several counts of violation here in this. So it was pretty evident to me that that session was completely play acted, that there wasn't even anything real about it. But even if it was real, it is completely unethical on so many levels. Okay, what happened there in that session? But then having that play acted and sold to the public as real, and in order to manipulate people, teenagers and young people, which is their target group, of course. I suspect the meat industry having their money fingers involved in this, having paid people to make something like this, such a manipulation propaganda video. That's like, that takes on another level of advertisement now with this, and which is absolutely illegal. I mean, this cannot possibly be legal. That I can't imagine that being legal. If that is legal, then our entire legal system is completely reversed and upside down, if that's legal. But I don't think that cannot possibly be legal. So, but that's why it is played, and sold as real. So, because I cannot imagine that any animal rights activist, no matter how young that person is, that would actually repeat these sentences after that coach, and would actually declare herself as cruel for pointing out cruelty. That's what the Scientology people do. They will twist everything around. The book's out there, by Leah Remini. People can read it. Leah Remini has brought this to the public courageously. Yeah. So taking that chance, of course, of being persecuted and sued and all of this, and she has to live with bodyguards now. Has to live and be completely protected by guards, because of the Scientology cult being so dangerous and so mafia-like. And so they have gained such financial momentum that they can actually afford their hitmen and all of this. It's very scary. The world of neurotic people and greedy people is very scary. Okay? And that's why I want people to pay attention to all of this and not buy into this. Pay very close attention and say no to those kind of coaches and so-called spiritual leaders. Okay? You guys take care.